Good evening, guys. Welcome to this week's edition of the Overdrive Digital Show. Petrol prices are skyrocketing all over the country, but here at Overdrive, we're trying not to let the price hike rattle us. Instead, we've been driving around in Audi, India's new electric SUV. Of course, we waited a very long time for the e-tron to come to India, since 2019 actually, but it's here. It's well appointed, comfortable, packs in the latest tech, everything you expect from a large Audi SUV. We spent a short day with the all-electric Audi e-tron 55 Quattro in the city and find it may be the best comfort luxury experience offered by its petrol-powered sibling, the Q8.
We've waited a long while for this moment. We've seen the e-tron multiple times over the last year or so, and it's finally coming to India. It's in the range-topping 55, guys, and this is what you need to know about it. We know the details of the e-tron already, so I'm not going to bore you with a run-through of what those are. But this is what all of that translates into in the real world, and it's proper smile-inducing performance. You really get pushed back into your seat, and it's so strange that there's no sound accompanying it. Of course, the e-tron isn't about a thrill a minute, though it can deliver that. It's more about delivering the large, comfortable Audi experience, with the e-tron itself being just a smidge smaller than the Q8, which is itself just a little bit smaller than the Q7. Now, there are a couple of ways to slow down in the e-tron. One is to set the brake recuperation to manual and pull down on the paddle shifters and set it at its most aggressive setting, which gives you about 0.3 G of brake force, which is pretty much the equivalent of pressing the brake yourself. And having said that, the brakes on the e-tron are really fantastic, stopping this 2.5 ton SUV in distances that would actually shame a sports car. So what you've got is acres of space up front and at the rear, with the truly modern Audi cabin with the two screens that maybe not all people like too much, but it's definitely got a learning curve to it, and it may not be the best system to use when you're on the go, but there's no denying that it looks just so sleek and minimalistic. So does the e-tron drive differently to any of Audi's IC engined counterparts? Well, the short answer is no, not really, apart from the fact that it's noiseless and very smooth, and NVH levels are great. It drives like how you would expect a Q7 or a Q8 to drive. The Q8 has that similar sense of effortless pace, and it doesn't feel particularly rapid, and the e-tron actually feels a little more exciting than the Q8 in that regard. Ride quality for a car that rides on 20-inch wheels is simply stellar. Audi has done a really good job of tuning the air suspension that comes as standard on the e-tron, and it makes short work of even the worst roads, though it does let you know that it's working hard sometimes. Sat in the rear seat of the e-tron is pretty much the same experience as being sat in any other large Audi, be it the Q8 or the Q7, and the reason we keep bringing up these SUVs is because the e-tron is likely to be priced very close to the Q8 and likely the Q7 when the new one comes in. In the rear of the cabin, a lot of the road irregularities that you don't really feel when you're sitting up front do get transmitted through, but overall it's a very smooth experience. Now, the packaging on the e-tron is such that the battery is placed really low, and unlike some other EVs where you are sat a little knees up, the seating in the rear of the cabin is pretty much what you'd expect in a Q7 or Q8, and the ride quality is very similar to what you'd see in a Q7 or Q8, at least the ones with air suspension. A big selling point for the e-Tron is of course the fact that it comes with one of the fastest onboard chargers. It's an AC charger, but it charges at about 22 kilowatts, which means that a 0 to 80% charge takes as little as 4.5 hours, which is roughly half the time required by similar wall boxes from other luxury EVs. In fact, a charge using the domestic plug 11 kilowatt socket takes about 8.5 hours, which is again quicker than other EVs in this price range. And a charge using a 50 kilowatt public DC charger, more of which are coming up, should take under 2 hours. e-Tron does support a maximum charge rate of 150 kilowatts, which means that a 0 to 80% charge could be had in less than 30 minutes. So we've got back to the charging station with about 32% of battery charge left, and it's already at 35% within a few minutes of charging. So it's pretty simple. You log on to the app and you start your charging process through there, and then it's 20-minute wait. So I'm going to take a nap.
Well, we're just 2 weeks away from the launch of the e-Tron. Guys, we're ready to take your queries live on the show. Remember, if you ask interesting questions, you'll win a 1-year subscription to the digital edition of the Overdrive magazine. Rohit is caught up somewhere, delayed a bit, but he'll be joining us shortly. Let's bring Bert on the show to answer your queries.
Hi guys, good evening.
Hi, Bert.
Hi Sohini, hi. Yeah,
I understand.
again, a lot of guys are
Internet.
facing issues, network issues, but guys have gone through everything, Jio, Airtel, even the local provider. And like I mentioned in my comments, BSNL is the only one left for me to try out. But for that, I'll probably have to shift to Ladakh or something. Maybe a good idea.
All right, but we already have a question about the e-Tron. Harshal wants to know, will it charge using the AC fast charger and not the DC charger? And he says, how can you charge this at a 22 kilowatt home?
Well, Harshal, the easy answer to this is actually the service providers that are there. Now, in the case of Audi, for instance, they've got some tie-ups with ABB, and they essentially install a system at home. In fact, we are trying to get that installed right now at Sohini's place in Bandra, because she's the only one who's got the space to do this. Unlike us, other Mumbaikars who've got a paucity of parkings in locations where we can put the car safely, and of course the electric charger along with it. But from what I understand, yes, you can definitely use the AC charging. That's what it is. That's the system that they use in any case for the fast charging systems as well. Now, 22 kilowatts, putting that up at home, I'm not entirely sure what's the bandwidth that you've got available with you in your place. Otherwise, you have to put a converter, and it just becomes an expensive option. To the best of my knowledge, it's the 15 kilowatt charging systems at home, and that's essentially what you can use. Any more than that, and it just becomes an expensive proposition to set up at home, nothing else. So yeah, you can rely only on the wall box charging unit at your residence right now. That's the only other option you've got.
But he says that AC fast chargers are cheaper than DC, so it would be an easy investment, right?
No, it's not exactly. That's not exactly true. AC fast charging is not exactly inexpensive operation in that sense. There is a cost involved to it, and it's a fairly expensive cost. DC fast chargers go on very expensive, and it's a very complicated system to utilize as well. But AC charging is a simpler system. Of course, that's what everybody uses. But the charges, the cost of installation, and the cost of all the cabling and whatever else that you would require, permissions and all, it doesn't really work out cheap. And as you go towards a higher voltage, towards higher wattage, you essentially pay a lot more to get that system in place. It's easy investment. Yes, you could do this, but it really doesn't work out economically for you in the long run.
All right. Syed is asking us max speed and power dissipation after a couple of years of use.
See, there is going to be some battery deterioration. So yes, there will be a depletion in the kind of performance that is there. Right now, there isn't accurate data as to how much of degradation happens and what are the effects essentially on performance, on mileage as well. It will again depend also on how quickly your battery degrades because of usage and because of the number of charges that you put onto that battery. So there are lots of factors that will affect it. But yes, unlike a petrol or another an IC engine, there is definitely degradation in an EV, and that comes in essentially from the batteries, not so much as the powertrain, as the motor, electric motor, but from the battery usage.
But Akash wants to know Nexon EV battery life in kilometers and years, replacement cost of battery cost per kilometer.
Well, most manufacturers effectively give you about a 10-year, 8 to 10-year lifetime cycle for a battery, even if it's Tata Motors also for that matter. But again, like I said, nobody's used that for 8 years as of now. It's just been a year and a half since you had the car in circulation. So all of this is purely conjecture, and at this point in time, and we just have to wait and see what are the kind of reports in a few years to understand how much how much of degradation happens and what is there. Similarly, right now there are no prices for replacement of batteries because this hasn't happened as of yet, and that information has not come out as of now. Nobody's really gone in for a battery replacement at this point in time. And done this. Most people, of course, in those 8 or 10 years, essentially would have changed the car. The car would have changed hands, and this, of course, still hasn't happened. But that's what I assume will happen. People will change hands. People will change their cars. Will go on to new electric cars. So it will take some time for us to understand all, or rather, get all of these answers in place. Cost per kilometer. There's a very interesting story that we have done, which is the cost of ownership of an EV. I'd recommend that you go to the website, Akash, and take a look at that story. It gives you an accurate representation of how much it would cost you to own and run an electric vehicle. In addition, we also compared it vis-a-vis an IC engined vehicle, and the differences, to be honest, are not a lot. It's a very, very short, rather very, very narrow margin between these two, simply because the cost of ownership, or rather the cost of purchase for an EV at this point in time is fairly high. So getting that and negating that cost over a period of time doesn't it takes a lot of time for you to kind of recover that kind of investment. So it's not how would I say it? It's not all green in that sense. At least the purchasing power of the EVs and the ownership value for the EVs is not all green all the way through. In a way, it's great that you can think of today, given the prices of petrol and diesel also for that matter, it is fairly expensive, and it will just increase that margin between owning an EV and of course owning an IC engine a little wider, but not by that much.
Harshil has one more question, but he wants to know whether you would go for the e-Tron or the Mercedes EQC.
Ah, very tough one, Narshil. Very, very tough question. Very interesting question. Now, each of these has got, how would I say it? Each of these has got their own characteristics, each of these SUVs for that matter. What's interesting to note is that from the luxury players in the market right now, whatever we've got are SUVs or crossovers, which in a very ideological sense of EVs is what is the right message to do, is the right message to send, because SUVs the world over are condemned because they're gas guzzlers, because they're polluters, they cause a lot of the emissions, and getting EVs out, an EV powertrain in the SUV space is the right thing to do. But if I had to choose between the EQC and the e-Tron, and of course, let me not forget, there's the I-Pace as well. I would. I think I would go with the I-Pace first, the e-Tron next, and then the EQC. The I-Pace because it's a fantastic car to drive. The dynamics are just brilliant. The e-Tron because it's fantastic. It feels really luxurious on the inside. It's got that great comfort and feeling that you get from any Audi for that matter. It continues and carries forward in that. The I-Pace feels like a very different car compared to any other Jaguar you're driving. But the e-Tron, it feels like any other luxury Audi in that sense. The EQC, again, great on space. I think there are certain areas that Mercedes can improve on. Also, between all of these platforms, remember, between the I-Pace, the e-Tron, and the EQC, Just the I-Pace and the e-Tron are completely new vehicles without being based on an IC engine counterpart, whereas the EQC based on the GLC. So there are some of those similarities that you'll get, which of course is that roomy cabin and space. Along that, Mercedes is dominant ride quality, so there's comfort in that sense. But as a car to drive every day, I think the I-Pace is something that I would enjoy the most, then the e-Tron and then the EQC.
But there are more questions from Harshil. And we'll take, this is the last one we'll take from him. Is it a sane choice to buy a 7 kilowatt or a 15 kilowatt DC charger at home if he buys the Nexon EV?
Sorry, there's a bit of a lag, Sony. I'm just kind of. Is it the same choice to buy a 7 kilowatt or 15 kilowatt DC charger at home? Harshal, DC chargers essentially are, like I said, extremely expensive, and of course, it's a very complicated option to install at home. Whatever you get right now is on the AC system itself, so I'm not entirely sure. I really haven't researched much on this to give you any informed opinion about DC charging. So right now, what you're going to be using is the wall box unit, and that's the best option that you have at home.
But we have a question from Vishnu. He wants a fun to drive car. He says if budget is not a problem, should he buy the T-Roc against the Kushaq 1.5 TSI? But is the T-Roc worth the premium?
No, the T-Roc is not worth the premium at this point in time. You're again comparing two cars in two very different segments. I do wish and hope that Volkswagen can assemble or at least bring that T-Roc in CKD format to India, because then it would mean the prices would become a little more affordable, and then it would be tremendous value. Having said that, it's a brilliant car. It's a phenomenal SUV. You really can't compare that to the Kushaq, which is a notch below the T-Roc, both in terms of performance, in terms of dynamics, in terms of interior quality, a lot of aspects for that matter. The Kushaq 1.5 TSI is a good car, it's a good SUV, but I really wouldn't recommend it at this point in time over the T-Roc. Though, yes, the value difference that is there is, of course, huge. Yeah, like I said, they're two different segments. And if you want a fun to drive car, then there are probably the T-Roc is the better option.
Right, but here's another question from Syed. I think it's a continuation of the previous one. Is the price worth? Because if you drive a Polo diesel for 10 years at an average of 10 kilometers per annum.
I see my browser or some issue. I'm running some issues with my service, with my network. Sorry about that, guys. But sad, yeah, is the price worth? Because we drive a Polo diesel for 10 years at an average of 10,000 kilometers per annum. Is the price worth? Because you drive a Polo diesel for 10 years at an average of 10,000 kilometers. Are you comparing this to an EV again? Because if you're driving a Polo for about 10 years, then yes, the EV will definitely outweigh any IC engined vehicle. There is no comparison over there. The EV will definitely turn out to be a far more valuable purchase than any IC engine car for that matter, unless you've got an IC engine that gives you 35-40 kilometers per liter. Then possibly, yes, then the gap will narrow tremendously. Maybe an IC engine car will make a lot more sense. But keep in mind that is not the case. There aren't any cars of that sort. And then, of course, there are the emission repercussions also. Year on year, the taxes could or the insurance might get higher. We do not know how policy will change towards IC engine vehicles in the future. So no, running any vehicle for that matter, even if it's a hatchback with a diesel engine that gives you great fuel efficiency, definitely does not equate to as much value as an EV will over a period of 10 years.
All right, we'll take one more question before we jump into our news section. This is a valid one from Lazy Wanderer. With flooding being a regular thing in many cities across, especially metros, how safe is it to use an EV in such places? Do they test for such conditions?
Well, Lazy Wanderer, yes, every EV is tested for for it to be able to wade through water, and even if it is submerged in water. Most of these batteries are the IP63, IP68. This thing, they conform to all those norms. And there isn't an issue with this. Your vehicle can lie submerged in water and will not make a difference. But yes, there could be some seepages in very bad waterlogged conditions. If the water is basically above a particular level with a lot of pressure. No one has really given out any claims to if a car, for instance, Mumbai conditions. Sometimes you've got flooding inside Mumbai city where the water could reach up to the window level, which means talking about almost 2.5 to 3 feet of water. And in those conditions, with the pressure of water, will that water enter? And that car would probably be lying there submerged for a very long time, not for the half an hour, 45 minutes, or an hour or 2 hours. It could be lying there for almost a day, probably more. We've had those situations in Bombay City in the past. And in those conditions, what exactly is going to happen to the battery really isn't. There really isn't much testing being done to that extent. So I really wouldn't have an answer for you in that situation. But for all other situations, yes, you can drive most EVs through. You can wade through water comfortably. They have got water wading capabilities as well, and water will not seep into the battery pack.
All right, guys, keep those questions coming. We'll get back to answering them in a bit. Time to update you on the highlights from this week. I'm just trying to. Is the question still showing? Okay, it's gone. Okay, all right. So Ferrari has launched the front-engine rear-wheel drive V8 Roma in India, starting at 3.76 crore rupees ex-showroom. That is before options. This Italian beauty is powered by Ferrari's award-winning 3.9-liter twin-turbo V8 that makes 620 PS and 760 Newton-meters of torque. Paired to a 8-speed DCT that debuted on the SF90 Stradale mounted on the rear axle, this coupe sprints to 100 kmph in just 3.4 seconds. We'll be taking this gorgeous car for a spin very soon, so if you want any questions answered, now is the time to ask. And keep your eyes peeled on our YouTube channel for a review soon. The short wheelbase 3-door version of the Land Rover Defender 90 is now on sale, with prices starting at 76.57 lakh rupees ex-showroom, which is approximately 7 lakh rupees under the starting price of the Defender 110. The Defender 90 can be spec'd as a standard 5-seater or 6-seater with the addition of a front row jump seat, same as the Defender 110, which can be spec'd to seat up to 8 passengers. Engine options range from a 2-liter and 3-liter petrol to a 3-liter diesel. The SUV is available in 3 trims, the Standard, X Dynamic and Defender X. The Defender X and X Dynamic trims carry similar list of equipment to the top-end HSE variants, namely the 10-inch infotainment, 12.3-inch digital instrumentation, Meridian audio, 360-degree camera, and more. The Defender 90 also gets terrain selector feature that enhances its all-terrain capabilities. For more details, you can head to the Overdrive website, which is overdrive.in. Price for the updated Range Rover Evoque in India has been announced, starting at 64.21 lakh rupees for the BS6 version. The updated model showcases more equipment than last year. Major additions include the 10-inch PV Pro infotainment system, 360-degree camera, a PM 2.5 cabin air filter with a wireless charger with a phone signal booster. The interiors get a new dual-tone color option called Deep Garnet or Ebony. In terms of engine options, the Evoque offers the 2-liter Ingenium turbo petrol and the 2-liter diesel, which makes a comeback to the Evoque lineup after being discontinued post the BS6 switchover. Tata Motors has widened its Dark Edition lineup to now include the Nexon, Nexon EV, Altroz, and the Harrier. Apart from the all-black exterior, the cars get all-black chrome wheels, dark premium chrome on the front grille, gloss black headlights, and a black theme continues inside the cabin as well. The range of the black-themed cosmetic packages now start with the Altroz premium hatchback starting at 8.71 lakh rupees. The Nexon Dark Edition starts at 10.40 lakh rupees, while the Nexon EV Dark Edition is priced at 18.4 lakh rupees. The Harrier Dark Edition has been updated with prices now starting from 15.99 lakh rupees. And finally, MG Motor India is expected to launch a mid-sized SUV later this year called the Astor. This is essentially the petrol-powered version of the ZS EV. India should get the petrol ZS or the Astor in its facelifted guise as seen at the Auto Expo just last year. The revised ZS gets a redesigned front end and continues to be heavily feature-loaded like the electric version. Internationally, the ZS, which the Astor will be derived from, is offered with a choice of a 1.5 litre petrol, a 1 litre 3-cylinder unit, and a 1.3 litre turbo petrol engine. We expect one of the petrols to come here with a manual transmission, as well as a new CVT, while the turbo petrol should get either the Hector's DCT or the international spec automatic transmission. This SUV is also expected to undercut its competitors when it launches in India, which is the Hyundai Creta, the Kia Seltos, and the Skoda Kodiaq. But what do you make of this announcement, the MG Astor?
Well, it'll just be one more product that they will have to offer in the Indian market. It will be in a competitive segment, a tough, challenging segment for that matter. So I guess it's only a matter of time before they're out in the market with it. But let's just wait and watch. Let's see what the space develops like.
All right, we'll get back to our questions. We still had some EV questions. There was one from Nisarg. He said, is it worth investing in an EV if you're an enthusiast who loves to drive whenever you wish to travel? Because we still don't have an established charging network. And he wants to know which is the best two-wheeler EV to get at present.
Well, Nisar, okay. First of all, is it worth investing in an EV if you're an enthusiast who loves to drive? At this point in time, I wouldn't advise it. We have a dismal infrastructure in place in India. There are not enough charging stations around India for you to take an EV and go out on a long drive. A lot of locations. Let's assume just take it as an example. If I had to drive from Bombay to Delhi, I'd run out of juice before I reached Ahmedabad, and I really wouldn't have any place to charge that car. You need an infrastructure that is lined up alongside the highway so that you don't have to drive too far into any town to get to a charging station, and that doesn't exist at this point in time. So that is a challenge. Now, how do we circumvent that? There is no way to circumvent that challenge, of course. So it really doesn't make sense to buy an EV and to try and head out and go out and do these long drives. Having said that, there are certainly certain areas, certain locations you'll have to get onto one of the service provider apps and evaluate what is the kind of charging infrastructure there in place and what is available. Now, we tried doing this. Of course, I tried doing this when the e-Tron was coming in to us for a test, and I wanted to drive it. Unfortunately, I just didn't have any charging infrastructure in a radius of about 10 kilometers to where I live, as a result of which I couldn't keep the car with me, and I had to leave it with Simran. So that essentially reduced, or rather, negated the potential of me having to get out and go on a drive, because anywhere that I have to reach, for me to reach a petrol charging station, would be at least 20 to 25 kilometers away one way, and that would kind of deplete my charge. Secondly, on a road trip, also keep in mind you've got lots of ups. You got lots of ups and downs if you're traveling through some hilly area. But climbing up is going to be a bit of a challenge. And while the battery will definitely recharge on the way down, because you're going to apply the brakes, you're going to coast for a while, so regenerative charging will happen. But we do not know what is the rate of depletion on the way up as of yet. All of these things are still to be discovered. We still haven't explored all of these possibilities with an EV as of now. So far, we have confined ourselves just to urban areas and not really taken these vehicles too far out. Whatever you've seen so far, anywhere else for that matter, I do know for a fact that people have carried generators and various other charging devices to make sure that the battery is charged, and they could have brought you certain stories. But it's feasible. Feasibility is extremely low at this point in time. It's still very, very difficult to get going and head out on a long road trip and to do something interesting, because you will face a lot of problems rather than be at ease or have that peace of mind driving experience right now.
All right, we've got Rohit. He's waiting on the sidelines to join us. Let's just have him on the show.
Hi,
Rohit, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Hello, Sohini. Hello, Bird. Good evening, everyone. Sorry for joining in a bit late today.
All right, Rohit, here's a question from Dodo Samuel, but I'm not sure whether you want to dive right into the motoring, the motorcycle news section, or you want to answer his question. It's about the BMW motorcycle.
Okay. Do you want? Let's start with the question and then continue with the news if both the topics are related.
Yeah. So can you see the question on the screen?
No.
So so he wants to know what's the primary difference between the regular and the ADV version of the new BMW R 1250.
Okay, so basically the GS is supposed to be the slightly sportier version, whereas the GSA, the Adventure, is the one that is essentially going to take you around the world. That is at least what the intent of the motorcycle is. And to that effect, it gets the larger tank, a 30-liter tank. And because it has a larger tank, it also has a slightly different suspension setup. The seating geometry is slightly different to make it as easy as possible to use. You also get all sorts of accessories with it as a standard fitment. For example, you have auxiliary lights, you have the tank guards, you have the engine guards. You also get pannier mounts as standard. So if you were to take a sum of all these additional accessories that you get, it's actually far lesser. It's actually far more than the amount of money that you're going to be paying, or the difference that you're going to be paying to get yourself a GSA or regular GS. So the only decision that you have to make between a GS and a GSA is essentially, do you want a vehicle that big? That's an ongoing debate, all across the globe. Because if I were to put it from an Indian perspective, Dodo, you have traveled with us at Overdrive to Ladakh, and back when we traveled and when we did that mega ADV shootout, when we took all these bikes to Ladakh. Ahead of Tandi, we didn't have a fuel station until we reached almost till Pang. That is where we got the unofficial fuel, not a proper fuel station. And then we had to go further up till Leh to be able to get fuel at that point of time when we traveled back then. But today it's not a big concern anymore. Today you probably don't need a 30-liter tank even in a place like India. Most of the places are now very well connected in terms of the fuel network, so you probably don't need it. So it's a decision that you have to make. Do you really need the 30-liter tank? And if you do, then probably the Adventure is the bike for you. Otherwise, the engine is the same. The power outputs are the same. The torque output is the same. Yes, there are a few tuning differences here and there, again, to basically make up for all the weight, the additional weight that the GSA has over the regular GS. And kitna mileage hai, boss? Dodo, my 1250 gives me anywhere between 17 to about 24, depending on how I ride, whether I take a pillion, if I have the luggage with me or not. So anywhere between 17 to 24 is what I get on my 1250 GS, and that's not the Adventure. This is the 1250 GS HP. So that's what I have.
All right. But
Yes,
yeah, there he is back.
all right, but Nitin wants to know, can we expect more features from the MG Astor more than the Creta and the Seltos? It gets 360 camera, panoramic sunroof globally.
Nitin, very difficult to say at this point in time what the configuration will be like. We're just jumping the gun with this. We don't even know at what point in time this vehicle will be launched and what will be the kind of offerings on it. It's just too early to say anything or to comment about anything at this point in time.
Rohit, we have a question here from Omkar. Will the Pulsar 250 have the same spec like Dominar 250, like monoshock, dual ABS, liquid cooling, and 4V DTSI? Now that D250 is cheaper, how will it be priced?
Well, Omkar, I think economies of scale will certainly dictate that the Pulsar 250 will have very similar equipment to the Dominar. At least that is how Bajaj will be able to, again, bet big on their profitability. That is what they always tout. And I think there's nothing wrong in doing that. It's a perfectly nice engine. It's a nice chassis. I'm guessing that they will rework the chassis because the only complaint that people have had with the Dominar, both 400 as well as the 250, is the weight. It feels very heavy. Whereas the Pulsar, it's always known to be a nice, light machine on its feet. And I think that is what they will want to achieve with the Pulsar 250 as well. Remember, this is going to be the first big Pulsar in the longest time. The 220 has been the flagship and it's been around for ages. Yes, there is the RS as well, but the proper street naked Pulsar, that is what we all have been waiting for, and finally it will be available in the 250 Avatar. So I'm expecting it to be lighter than the Dominar. I'm expecting slightly better equipment as well, because yes, the Dominar's pricing has been dropped. But if you recall our review, I had said the same thing, that Even if they've made a 250cc engine and made the Dominar more accessible with it, I still don't see a lot of takers for that particular motorcycle, because people who want to go touring will choose a touring motorcycle, will probably end up with something like a Himalayan or the 390 Adventure or the 250 Adventure from KTM. The Dominar had a very small scope to begin with, whereas the Pulsar, it has a big lineage, it has a lot of scope from that sense, and I think they will be able to bet big on that. And you already have bikes like the Gixxer 250 and the FZ doing very well in that 250cc segment, and that is what Bajaj really wants to capitalize on, and that's not happening with the Dominar. So they'll certainly want to do that with the Pulsar. So for that, they'll have to throw the kitchen sink at it.
Then here's a good question from Mayur. He wants to know that given the fuel prices are escalating in the metro, how is the team dealing with the fuel expenses for the test cars and the garage fleet? I think Bert should tell them that he's been cycling. In fact, just before the show, he was telling us.
I've been cycling everywhere, my friends. That's what I do these days. I've got a cycle with me, and that keeps the fuel costs. I really couldn't care whether it's EV or IC engine any longer. I'm on pedal power.
That's true.
All right.
The only thing is I'm going to lay off the sweets and everything else, because then it doesn't last me too long. My legs can only pump and take me that far.
Rohit, there's one more two-wheeler question from Elton. He wants to know any information on the Honda CRF 300L launch, and is Hero Motor Company getting a 400cc motor on the X-Pulse?
Well, I'll not deny it, but I think the answer would be yes for both. We are hearing, very strong comments and feedback from both these companies. Yes, there could be a CRF 300L on the horizon, and there could be the 400 as well. They've already shown the rolling chassis for it. Hero has already shown that rolling chassis, and it is being, developed for the last 2-3 years now. In fact, there are some big names working on that project, is what we keep repeating on this show as well. Both these motorcycles are a very big possibility, because now the Himalayan, the 390 Adventure, the 250 Adventure, and Hero's own X-Pulse, they've shown that the entry-level space for this adventure touring segment is really hotting up quite a bit now. And now everyone would want to, really have a slice of that pie. When the Impulse came, probably no one really thought that it would explode like this, that the segment would explode like this, but now it's really working well, and everyone would want a slice of this pie.
But Ritoman Das wants to know, should he go for the Magnet instead of other compact SUVs in the market? Is Nissan a trusted brand, as they haven't managed to build their image, particularly in India?
Well, Rituban, I'd agree with you on that. Nissan hasn't been able to strengthen their brand image in the country. But that's not to say that they aren't doing the right things, that they've got the right packages, they've got the right service packages essentially, and that their cars are reliable at the end of the day, and they work well, they operate well. Now, having said that, they do have few concerns, because the network isn't as strong within the country. They've got fewer dealerships than on service stations than most other manufacturers, so that can be a bit of a challenge. But they are a trusted brand. They do have the right set of products. They do have right products lined up for us in the Indian market. And now that the Magnet has been a success, I think we'll see a lot more action from that brand within India. Maybe not in the premium segments as much as what they've shown in the more affordable segments. Now, should you go in for the Magnite instead of other compact SUVs in the market? I would recommend this point in time for you to evaluate both pros and cons of brands, as well as because the products, the Magnet or the other one that I'm going to recommend, which is the Kiger. Now, they're both the same product at the end of the day, but here you're going to be evaluating both the manufacturers, the brands that they're involved with, rather than the product itself. The product is sound, and you can definitely go in for it. Now, it's the question of whether you go for Nissan or Renault. At this point in time, Renault has definitely got a more established brand in the country, a larger network also for that matter. And as a brand, they're a little bit stronger and, able to deal with a lot of concerns that that the consumers have in probably quicker time compared to what I have seen from Nissan in the past. But I would say, figure out where you get your best deal. Identify if you have a dealership close enough to you, so that if you ever have to go down for a service or for any other repairs, that the dealership isn't too far away from you. The kind of relationships that you'll be able to build through both these through the service stations for that matter, who will pay more attention to you, who empathizes with you better, who can offer you a better deal, and who takes more care of you. And essentially, you go in from there. So it all depends on what kind of a relationship you have with your dealership, because the products are good. They are the finest products in the market at this point in time. We recently did the comparison between the Tiger and everything else in that segment. And the Tiger, of course, came out on top, not the Magnite. But having said that, the Magnite, of course, the pricing also is there. It's something worth considering, because you're essentially getting the same product. I've got a long-term Magnite running right now, and it's a comfortable product. It's a good product. The CVT works fine. I have no complaints against it. Yes, I do not probably get the kind of quality that I've been getting, or I've been which I have enjoyed for a few weeks in a Mercedes Benz that's been there at home, or some other vehicles also for that matter. But I really cannot complain. There isn't anything that I can find in the Magnite to complain about. It is built well. It feels good. It does the job that it is intended to do. It's got great ride quality. It's very spacious. Let me tell you this: the space inside that vehicle is just incredible. And of course, there's a lot of storage as well. So I think on all those counts, the Magnite is a good car. Like I said, evaluate the dealerships that you've got close to, the Renault or the Nissan, and then decide which of these two products you want to buy.
All right, here's another interesting question. Why are naturally aspirated engines better than turbochargers?
Not entirely true. Naturally aspirated engines are not exactly better than turbochargers, because turbochargers at the end of the day make engines perform far more efficiently than being naturally aspirated for that matter. But naturally aspirated NA engines definitely have certain advantages as well. They've got very clean linear power deliveries for that matter. They feel great to drive. The response is much quicker. So you get a lot more enthusiastic performance from a naturally aspirated engine. Now, that also depends on what kind of tweaking that would be done using a turbocharger. Keep in mind, a lot of manufacturers now employ two turbochargers, one to deliver you the lower end torque that you need, so that acceleration comes in rapidly. And of course, there's another turbocharger that works at a higher end, so that continues, that torque spread continues for a longer period of time. But turbochargers essentially make a small engine far more efficient, a lot more powerful. So you can, reduce the costs of developing larger engines. Instead of having to go for a V6 or a V8, you can get the same or similar power outputs from a four-cylinder inline engine as well. And that's essentially where the differences lie. But yeah, naturally aspirated engines, a lot of people appreciate them because of the kind of responses that they get, the kind of linearity that you get with a naturally aspirated engine is significantly better than what you experience in a turbocharged engine.
All right, guys, we'll be back to answering your questions. Rohit, if you could run us through the motorcycle news, please.
Sure. So let's begin with the question that we began with today, the motorcycle section, the BMW R1250 GS. Now, yesterday, BMW launched the much-awaited 2021 lineup of the R1250 GS in the Indian market. And they have brought in all the color options, including the limited 40th anniversary edition. That's the one that you see on the screen, the one with the black and yellow paint scheme. So there are three options to choose from: the white, blue, and red. That's the corporate colors for BMW. That is the Style Rally. There is a triple black, and then there is the anniversary edition. Now, we are all expecting the anniversary edition to be more expensive by almost 2 to 3 lakh rupees as compared to the other variants. However, BMW has pulled off a very nice surprise in India, and they have priced the anniversary edition at the same level as the Style Rally. Now, how they've managed to do this is the option 719 accessories like the cylinder guards or the enduro screen and a few other accessories here and there. These are all machine parts. They have not put it as a part of the standard kit for the anniversary edition. You can buy them separately. So if you purely want the anniversary edition paint job, they've literally priced it at the same price as the Style HP. So I think that's the Style Rally, sorry. And that is, I think, a very good move. What is new in this motorcycle? Well, a few tweaks to the engine, a few changes here and there. There's an eco mode now in the riding modes. To quickly refresh your memory, there was the rain mode, there was the road mode. With the pro modes, you also had the dynamic and the enduro pro modes. But now you also have an eco mode, and that is for more fuel efficient engine map. It also dulls down the throttle response a little bit. Now, we have not ridden this bike or reviewed this bike in detail. Once we do, we'll tell you how much of a difference does really make to the fuel economy as well as to the power delivery. But yeah, that is the new addition here. You also get a knock sensor for the engine. So essentially, in theory, it means that it will be able to run on slightly poor quality fuel as well. That's great news for an adventure tourer like this. For all other changes, for all of the info, definitely do check overdrive.in. We have a detailed video about it. So definitely do take a look, and you will get an idea of what is changed, what is new, what the pricing is like for the different variants. So definitely do take a look. But to give you a quick gist of the pricing, they've actually managed to price these motorcycles slightly cheaper than the outgoing 1250, about 5 to 10,000 rupees cheaper than the outgoing 1250, the corresponding variants of the outgoing 1250. It could change a little bit here and there depending on which city you're buying it in, but this one's definitely more economical than the outgoing model. Well, the next bit of news is from Benelli. Now, we already know that Benelli has a BS6 compliant 500cc engine at their disposal in the Leoncino, also in the TRK 502. And now what they have coming very soon is the 502C. It's the urban cruiser, a bit of that Dival-inspired design or Dominar-inspired design, whatever you might want to call it. But it essentially runs the same engine as the TRK 502. And they are calling it the new urban cruiser for the Indian market. It already exists in the Chinese market. It makes about 47.5 PS of power and 46 Newton meters of torque, gets all LED lighting, has upside down forks, rear monoshock as well. And by the looks of it, it looks like a nice, simple, agile, smart looking urban cruiser. Will they be able to make a big difference in the Indian market? We don't know yet, but the Leoncino has been received quite well. The TRK has been received quite well. And at around 5 lakh rupees, I think even the urban cruiser, well, it does have a bit of a chance, but we don't know. The Dominar hasn't worked very well for Bajaj, so I'm not very sure if people want this particular body style. But all of that we'll leave for the review as and when we do it. As of now, the bookings have been open for a token amount of 10,000 rupees. And if you're interested in this motorcycle, do contact your closest Benelli dealer. Well, those are all the news that we have from the motorcycle sphere at the moment. Back to you, Sohini. Back to you both.
Sohini, there are a few questions that I think we should be taking. Some very interesting questions coming up. One, of course, yes, like you've just posted over here, Autotech Space. Wanted to understand that the Sonic diesel automatic is really much better to drive than the manual version, considering the automatic has higher power figures. Yes, Autotech Space, the diesel automatic is definitely much nicer to drive. That power rating, the power and torque output makes it much better to drive. Of course, you get that comfort and the ease of driving an automatic as well. But what I'd like to say is that transmission is an extremely smooth transmission. Very quick for that matter, also to shift between up and down the gears. So it makes it, or rather, it gives you a little more driving pleasure for that matter than the manual. There again, it's an SUV at the end of the day. It's not an SUV that can take you far off-road also for that matter, some light off-road, off-roading, some dirt trail somewhere or the other, and not mucky situations, and the Sonnet will be able to handle that comfortably compared to a sedan. You're not going to, you're not going to touch anything underbody because it's got the high ground clearance. So all of those advantages are there, of course, but the diesel automatic, I mean, it gives you a lot more comfort. So if you're out on the highways, you're out on a road trip somewhere, the automatic will make a lot more sense for you. You'll be in urban areas as well. It's definitely a lot more comfortable to drive an automatic. So if you're looking for an option between the automatic and the manual, I would recommend the automatic to you any day.
All right, what Saicharan wants to know is the Maybach GLS 600 more luxurious than the Bentley Bentayga?
Saicharan, very interesting question. And we are now in a luxury space that isn't really, that is very difficult to define as to how luxurious any of them are. Now, whether it's the Maybach GLS, whether it's the Maybach S-Class, whether it's the Bentayga, whether it's a Rolls-Royce, or any other luxury cars that exist in that space, that super uber luxury barges that are there. Now, each of these cars is customizable. They're bespoke. You can't really compare them to each other in a way. Because all of these options now, even if the Maybach GLS gives you those, those seats which turn into a lounge area and you can really recline and stretch yourself out, get all that kind of space inside it. It really isn't something that is unique to Maybach alone. Those systems are available, and if you go to Bentley or if you go to Rolls-Royce for that matter, each of them can, they can deliver whatever you require in terms of interior luxury and comfort. Another interesting aspect over here is that the luxury also depends on the kind of materials used inside the cabin. Now you can specify what kind of leather you'd want in your interiors, what kind of veneer you'd want, where should that tree have come from, that gave you the wood that is inlaid on your dashboard, or where does that cow reside, where that leather would effectively then find its way into your car. All of these things and all these elements can be specified with Bentley or with Rolls-Royce also for that matter. But I don't know how much of customization is available on the Maybach. From what I understand, they have got a set list of elements that they can add on to the car. It's a very, very big list, of course. But I don't think it is as bespoke a program as what Bentley or Rolls-Royce offer. Good features as an everyday car, as something that you would use every day. Well, the Maybach GLS, well, there isn't anything that would come close to what it is. Also, keep in mind, the Bentayga is definitely a lot more expensive than the GLS Maybach for that matter. So there really isn't a comparison between these, definitely not onions to onions comparison for that matter. It's an onion to potato or whatever else you consider. That's where the differences lie between the Bentayga or the Maybach GLS.
All right. Siddharth wants to know when can we expect mid-size SUV from Honda?
Still a long time off, Siddharth. There's still some time off because Honda needs to consolidate whatever it is doing in India and ensure that their existing products that are there in the market run very well, namely the City. But yes, in the next few months, we are expecting to hear a lot more from Honda as to what's going to happen. I guess within the next couple of months, for that matter, we will have some information for you as to what Honda is up to in this market.
I'm just looking for a question. Can't find it, but I think there was a question about what is the best two-wheeler EV that we can buy in the country today if budget is not a concern. Rohit?
I think if it was a scooter to be chosen, I think I would get the Ather 450X. It's got a good mix of futuristic looks, great performance, and it's also quite practical. So I think if I had to choose a scooter, maybe I would look at the Ather 450X. It's also easily available in most of the cities. They've addressed that network issue quite well. They have a much robust network compared to the bigger brands in this particular space. And if you are looking at the motorcycle space, you hardly have any options, very frankly, that are reliable. There is the Revolt, and that seems to be catching everybody's fancy because every time they open up the bookings, they get sold out in no time. So I think as of now, it's the Revolt if you're looking at the motorcycle space, and it's the Ather 450X that I would recommend if you're looking at the scooter space.
All right, here's another interesting one from Dodo Samuel. In terms of mileage, usually there's a manufacturer claimed figure, and as a realistic figure that magazines such as Esteemed, Overdrive, and why is there always a difference? Consumers look here.
Well, see, the ARAI fuel efficiency test is conducted using a chassis dynamometer, which essentially is a continuously rolling system where the tires just kind of spin consistently. It's a rolling road dynamometer, and conditions, real world conditions, are simulated on that. Okay, so which means the vehicle will brake from time to time, inclinations will be added, downhill slopes will be added. All those kind of conditions are then simulated on that. It isn't, however, an accurate representation. Now, our driving cycles are as real world as they can get. And you will always see differences between the various publications, various people who test and evaluate them, because we all test in different conditions, different regions. You will always have a difference in fuel efficiency between what you get in Delhi, for instance, or in Bombay, because again, both of those are at different altitudes. You might also get a difference in fuel efficiency from Pune to Bombay for that matter, because Pune is at a higher altitude and vehicles will behave differently over there. The fueling will differ there compared to what we get in Bombay. So all of these factors will matter. Now, that's one of the reasons why ARAI's figures are always consistently good or high, because they use the chassis dynamometer. Now, our real world tests also, it depends on the traffic conditions, what time of day that we get out for a test. It's not always feasible to head out at the same time every day or every time you go out for a test. So these will differ continuously. Sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon, sometimes it's in the evening. temperature will vary again. So there is no way to make this a very consistent test or to give you how do I say, to benchmark this against each other every time that we're out testing fuel efficiency. So what we get is as accurate a representation you can get from real world conditions, because we're actually out there on the roads conducting these fuel efficiency tests and at speeds that are specified by the government for that matter. So if it's and which also works optimally with the torque band of that particular car. So just to give you an example, if it's an 800cc car, we know for a fact that it's not going to give you great efficiency at 100 kilometers an hour. It might do its best efficiency at 60 kilometers an hour. At 100 kilometers an hour, there's no way that we can standardize that test and then say, because every other car or larger cars for that matter, if a Mercedes Benz, for instance, would be ticking over at just about 1500, 1800 RPM at 100 kilometers an hour. So it's doing extremely, it's got great efficiency, but at 800 now to 800 for that matter, would be revving its nuts off just to get to the 100 kilometers an hour and staying there. So it'll give you absolutely ridiculous fuel efficiency figures if you're driving at 100 kilometers an hour, whereas the Mercedes might do its best at 100 kilometers an hour. So we also take these conditions, we factor these conditions into our tests as well. Certain cars, we've got a certain benchmark speed for them. For other cars, maybe not, which cannot do those particular speeds, we've got a benchmark speed for them. Similarly, in two-wheelers as well, we also have a benchmark speed for various motorcycles, various categories of motorcycles that can hold that kind, those kind of speeds, or at least can hold its best torque output at a particular RPM.
Rohit, when is the Q4 e-Tron coming to India?
Well, the e-Tron is finally coming. So now the floodgates should open for luxury EVs, like we said last year when we drove the EQC. So the EQC is now being followed by the e-Tron. That's finally coming. It's been a long time coming. And once it is here, Audi does have some really good plans in terms of setting up charging networks, in setting up the infrastructure required for the customers. And if everything is on target, the other e-Tron models should follow suit very soon.
All right. Sai Sharan wants to know, does the Kushaq steering wheel have dead spot in the center while driving?
Well, not that when I know, when I drove it, I didn't have any of those issues. But Rohit, I'm not sure if you...
No, there's no that dead at center feel that we usually complain about is not there with the Kushaq for sure. The only problem that I have with that steering is that even at highway speeds, it just doesn't weigh up well enough to match the dynamics of the car or what I expect from a European car like the Kushaq. So that's the only problem with it. Otherwise, no, there is no dead at center feel at all with this particular car. And that's for both the variants, the 1 liter as well as the 1.5.
All right. What are you expecting the price of the Toyota Hilux to be?
I definitely hope that they bring in 120 lakhs. I mean, if they do, I'm buying one for sure, without saying. But it better undercut what Isuzu does with the D-Max for that matter. I'm hoping Toyota can get it at a price that is affordable, not just affordable, that is ridiculously affordable. Please, Toyota, I mean, don't really kill the joy of the Hilux by pricing it too exorbitantly. To do a very competitive pricing for it. And yes, hopefully you will have a lot more takers for the Hilux.
All right. Alankar wants to know, does Volkswagen Group have any plans of bringing the diesel cars back to India?
Yes, Alankar, Volkswagen is definitely working on bringing diesel back. It's a big miss from their portfolio at this moment in time. It definitely reduces their volumes, the numbers that they can do in this country, because we're still a fairly diesel strong market, and there are plans to bring the diesel back into India.
All right. And Mayur wants to know, are batteries in EVs waterproof? Those who have batteries placed under the floor?
Well, almost all automotive manufacturer in the passenger car segment at this point in time places the batteries in the floor pan, under the floor pan. So that's where they all go. There isn't any other positioning for those batteries at this point in time. And yes, all of those batteries are waterproof. They pass all the norms for waterproofing that are required, whether it's IP65, 68, whatever tests are there. They all conform to those norms. So yes, they are absolutely waterproof.
All right, we'll take one last question, but before we announce the winners. When will Mercedes launch the new C-Class in India?
Well, Mercedes-Benz had 15 launches this year. I think we've gone through, I think 3 or 4 of them as of now. Rohit, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we had 4 new launches so far. Or
yes.
Is it...
It's a little bit more, if I'm not wrong.
Just the top of
But
my hat, I think
yeah,
what I can
it's more
remember is S-Class, the GLS Maybach was this year. Then you had the
A-Class,
A-Class. Then you
GLA
had the GLA. Now, of course, you've got the EAMGs coming in very,
coming
very
in. Yeah.
shortly, and there are that means there are about at least another 9 or 10 cars that are supposed to come out this year. This year would be calendar year or financial year, I'm not entirely sure, but I think by March of next year we'll definitely see another 8 to 9 cars coming out in the market. What I can say is that I can't tell you exactly when. Now, the problem with this is also that a lot of these cars, a lot of the kits aren't really coming down to India comfortably for these manufactured luxury car spaces because there is a semiconductor shortage around the country, around the world for that matter. And this is essentially leading a lot of luxury car manufacturers to start offering whatever they can right now. A very interesting development that took place recently. In fact, someone reached out to Sohini and then, of course, got in touch with me and saying that the S-Class that they had received did not have the 3D screens on it, which I had spoken about in one of my social media posts. This phenomenal, the S-Class has got these phenomenal 3D display on the instrument cluster, and it just works brilliantly. Absolutely brilliant feature. But the customer who bought the S Class or received the S Class did not have that feature in his S Class. And speaking to another luxury car manufacturer, what I particularly learned was that at this point in time, because of the semiconductor shortage, there are cars coming in, there are kits coming in, which may or may not have certain features on them. So while you're still probably getting the S Class, it's quite possible that there may be some features you may not see on your car that another owner might have on his particular car. All sorts of permutations and combinations are taking place at this point in time. But manufacturers are essentially trying to provide as far as possible whatever they can or whatever they have access and availability to in the market. So this is the situation that is there at this point in time. Now, when the C class will come in, again, there is no fixed timeline to this. It will come in, of course, new C class will definitely come in. But what exactly is the timeline will all depend on what global supply chains are positioned like, and whether if they are in a position to supply enough kits of the C class so that Mercedes can start manufacturing them here in India.
All right, we'll take one last question. Prashant Himani wants to know, should he buy the Seltos top model or the Jeep Compass Sport, compromise on safety or on features?
Should I buy Seltos top model or Jeep Compass Sport? Tough question, Prashant. But I suggest you go with the Jeep Compass Sport. Driven it extensively, driven it all the way up to Manali and back from Bombay. Very comfortable drive for that matter. Good engines. The only place I think it would kind of be a bit of a compromise would be on the fuel efficiency bit, and over that, so the Seltos would be the one that will give you better efficiency compared to the Compass, and that's I think the only aspect where the Compass would be lacking. Of course, it doesn't. It's the styling, the interiors. It's all personal preferences and what appeals to you better. But where safety is concerned, they've all got the best of features that can be made available at that particular price point. So that's not a concern. Feature wise, though, I would believe the Seltos is a little more richer spec than the Compass. And if safety and features are your top priority, then probably the Seltos may be the better vehicle to go in for. The Compass may not be the best choices, but like I said, the Compass is what I like because of its ride and the comfort that it offers over long distances. Because I did those kind of long distances in the Compass. The Seltos not so much, but features and safety, then the Seltos is your buy.
All right, but do we have the winners for this week?
Yeah, Sony. Of course, we've got the winners. I think the first one was a question that you posted earlier in the show. I couldn't find that. Syed, who
Yes.
if you just put that query up again, Syed, if you're still watching us, then you're definitely one of those.
He asked about max speed and power dissipation after a couple of years of use.
Yes, absolutely, on the EVs. So, Syed, yes, your question was one of the top queries for this month, for this week, sorry, and you will be one of those who will receive a free subscription to Overdrive's digital issue. The others also are NVKE, if you're watching. Very good question. Why are naturally aspirated engines better than turbochargers? Nisar Dalal also, is it worth to invest in an EV if you're an enthusiast who loves to drive whenever you wish to travel? because we don't have an established charging network at present. So, Mr. Dalal, if you're watching this, congratulations, even you will be setting along that subscription very, very quickly. Sai Charan, again, very good question. Considering the luxury given by Mercedes GLS 600, is it better than luxury given by Bentley Bentayga? Phenomenal question, and I hope someday soon we will be able to answer that by actually comparing these cars, if the Bentayga is available to us, of course. But we hope we can answer that question for you physically by getting that comparison done.
All right. So, all right. I'm just trying to get the names on the screen. Syed, NVK, Endalal, Sai Sharan, you can send us an email on digitalshow@overdrive.co.in and we'll try to activate your subscription soon. Before we sign out though, let's quickly take a look at what you can expect on the show tomorrow on CNBC TV 18 at 1 p.m. We take Audi's first electric SUV for a spin within the city. We also check out Aprilia India's SXR 125 and find out what's changed in the facelifted BMW 5 Series. You can catch the repeat telecast on Sunday at 12:30 p.m. or 8 p.m. or stream the show live on cnbctv18.com/live TV.
So very, very interesting question that Dodo Samuel has just posted. I was just going through the thing, and he asked the question, can you push start an automatic? In one word, no. No, Dodo, you cannot do that. You just cannot push start an automatic. It's not possible. You'll have to put it on neutral and tow it to your service station and get the problem rectified. Push starting an automatic isn't possible. You would, if you try to do that, you'll probably break something inside your gearbox. No one has been successfully.
He's saying fine, and I'll still buy your print magazines, which is great. Please go ahead and buy the magazine, guys, because you'll have to really buck up with interesting questions to win the subscription. We'll catch up with you guys.
We've got some very interesting stuff going up in the next issue because there's been a lot of manufacturers that have come out this month with a lot of cars made available to us. We've got the drive story on the Ferrari Roma, we've got the S-Class, we've got the Push-Up, we've got the Alcazar, we've got the e-Tron, we've got the I-Pace. There's tons of stories in this current issue. Again, all those who are going to receive a subscription from us, all that is in store. And for the rest of you also, people who've got a subscription from us in the past, I do hope those copies, those digital copies, are reaching out to you. Please bear with us also. We are short of a workforce at this point in time, and restrictions, lockdown restrictions, still ensure that we're working out of home. So there are delays in our supply chains as well. Our semiconductors keep getting shorted out from time to time working from home. But hopefully we will speed up this process and be able to come out with the issue in time like we used to in the past, which generally is at least 5 days before the month began. So fingers crossed that we can get back to those schedules, but there is a ton of content in the coming issue, and of course I'm hoping there will be a ton of content in the next issue as well as more things open up and are accessible to us as well. I'm looking forward to heading out on some interesting drives because this is the season opening up for us to get out on the road. For all of you out there, again, expect a third wave to come in. So do stay safe wherever you're traveling. I know a lot of people are out on the road. I see a lot of social media posts about people who are out on the road traveling place to place. And while we will also be careful at our end, I would urge you to stay safe as well. Just don't do anything stupid at this point in time.
And mask up. A lot of people are heading out without masks.
Get your vaccines, even if you have to pay for them. Get your vaccines done, and fingers crossed that will keep us safe.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week then at 6 p.m. on Friday.
Bye, guys. Bye. See you all. And for anyone complaining about the times that we come late at, we always give you a bonus 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Dodo cycle. You also got these tickets coming in. But have a nice weekend, guys. And yeah, do watch out for the big game, Euro 2020, Italy versus England. Any football fanatics out there, whom are your bets on? You can DM me on Twitter or on Instagram as well. All right. I'm going to be watching out for that. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night.